Good morning, everyone. Lee Henson here, President and Founder of AgileDad, and it's time for today's edition of the Daily Stand-Up. Without any further ado, let's get started. Recently I had the opportunity to take one of my sons, and we went through a drive-through restaurant to get him a Frosty after a dental appointment. And while we're in line, I just thought about how people place their order. So I was watching the person in front of me, and I could just picture it now. He looked like a pretty nice executive, dressed nice. He had his nice suit on. Everything was good. I could just picture him saying, yeah, I need a number 7 combo, make that large. I want a Diet Coke. And if you could give me one Agile transformation in 3 to 6 months, that'll be great. People treat Agile transformation like it's just another item that they're getting through a drive-through window. I've found so many leaders and executives that really, they buy the book Twice to Work in Half the Time by Dr. Jeff Sutherland. Great book, by the way. But what they end up doing is they end up trying to literally say, I want to transform my entire organization, everything about it, everything that's happening, and I want to do it in 3 to 6 months. And I want excellent results, and I want it to be inexpensive, and I want it to be perfect. And the truth is, in reality, a good Agile transformation for a small to mid-sized company could take anywhere from 1 to 3 years. And I'm not saying that you won't receive any benefit up front, so allow me to explain. There are some initial benefits that appear quickly. So if you start adopting Agile in areas of your organization and start doing pilots and applying all the Agile foundations, you're going to see some really strong results. You're going to see things go to market faster. You're going to see your costs start to reduce. You're going to see team members start to become happy. You're going to see morale improve. So there are some certain things that you'll see right away. But once you get to the point where I hate to say this, but there really is a point of diminishing return where you start to see everything plateau. And when you start to see things plateau, that's when you need to look at, WIP limits. Are we taking on too much work? Do we have the right amount of work and flow? Are our teams equally and distributed correctly? Do we have good skill sets? Do we have an Agile culture? Do we have an internal Agile center of excellence built to help our teams accelerate? And then it's time for us to start exploring scaling once we have eliminated our debt and done all those things necessary in order to get to a point where it makes sense to take this to a more full enterprise-wide version. But the truth is, enterprise-wide agility often takes several years. And Agile itself, inside of your organization, tends to evolve over time. What you'll find is that today's Agile is not going to be next year's Agile. I would even venture to say today's Agile might not be 3 weeks from now's Agile or 3 months from now's Agile. Because part of agility is the empirical process, and the empirical process promises that we will inspect, adapt, and be transparent. And I think that oftentimes we don't take those things into consideration as we should. So I guess what I'm trying to say in a nutshell is that there's a lot that goes into an Agile transformation. So I guess, when people want to approach this, a lot of times they ask me, okay, this is going to require heavy, large down intervention in order to reset the entire organization to make it happen. Or, we'll get 1 or 2 teams up to speed from the bottom, and then we'll just have all the other teams emulate them or redistribute and reallocate those people onto other teams so that we can see the same effect across the enterprise. And the truth is, neither one of those are going to work the way that you anticipate. That's so hard for me to say, because if you apply both at the same time, you'll get some favorable results. But I think that sometimes when people try to just look for a book or a guide, without, that's very prescriptive, they're going to get a very prescriptive implementation of Agile, which isn't going to give them the result that they're looking for. So I guess what I'm trying to say is one of the reasons why AgileDad came out with the Agile 12-step program was that it literally is 12 steps, and the 12 steps are more questions that you can ask yourself and then address. So, for example, the first step, why did your company decide to do Agile? What problem were you trying to solve? How were you trying to make things better? And I think that if you don't have focus on why you're trying to do Agile, what problem you're trying to solve, or what you're trying to make better, it's going to make it really hard. The second question is, did you set realistic leadership executive expectations? So even if it's not a top-down approach, do they understand what's expected of them and what's expected of teams and how long this transition is going to take and what they can expect? Are you being transparent about what you're trying to do? The third one is, do you have clarity for every role and responsibility? So does everyone understand that a title is just a title and a role is what they do? And, it doesn't get super prescriptive, but it does force you to at least think differently. It forces you to talk about those things that you need to do as an organization in order to be successful, and it forces you to address the things that are going on. So every one of the 12 steps are written in that way. It gives you something to think about, a starting point, a talking point. And then each organization can leverage this document to build their own internal Agile culture or Agile Center of Excellence, and they know what areas they should be focused on. Now, while I tell people all the time you don't have to do the 12 steps in order, it sure is helpful if you do, because then one builds upon the next. And what I can tell you is, while in reality it could take several years for an Agile transformation to be adopted across an entire enterprise, what I know for certain is that the organizations that take the 12-step program seriously can see acceleration in that phase. They can see the first things that we would address if we were a coach there in-house. I recently had an executive who wanted to get coaching from us, and I asked him to try the 12-step program first. Not because I didn't have coaches that could go out and certainly help him, but because I wanted him to see the power of a self-assessment. And what was beautiful was that when he did that self-assessment, he realized, I have a long way to go before I can really see the benefit of having a strong Agile coach here. Let's work on some of these little things ourselves first, get those figured out, and then we can take on the bigger role of having a coach. And I think that more and more organizations are starting to lean towards having someone internal. So I think it's important for you to recognize that a coach adds great value, but there's a lot of things you can do first. So I hope that helps you solve the problem about, Agile transformations and how long they take and what you can do about it. It's not just a Happy Meal approach. You need to make sure you understand what you're trying to do, why you're trying to do it, and make sure you have those expectations set. That 12-step program that I mentioned is available, as with everything else, at AgileDad.com. And, we want to do another list of episodes here on the podcast that come from you. So if you have a topic that you want us to discuss, please send it over to learnmore@AgileDad.com. That's LEARNMORE at AgileDad.com. And as always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.